The penthouse suite at the Ritz-Carlton Chicago gleamed under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of Lake Michigan at sunset. The private dinner party buzzed with the conversation of Chicago's elite, politicians, CEOs, and socialites who controlled the city's fate over champagne and Wagyu beef. But Samantha Cruz wasn't supposed to be there. She definitely wasn't supposed to be there. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she adjusted the satin cocktail dress she'd borrowed from her roommate, a deep emerald green that complemented her olive skin, but felt foreign against her working-class sensibilities. The Louboutin heels pinched her feet mercilessly, but she forced herself to glide across the marble floor with practiced grace, balancing the silver tray of hors d'oeuvres like the experienced server she was. She was working this event through her catering company job, but that wasn't why she was really here. She was here because 3 months ago, she'd discovered that her husband of 2 years, sweet, loyal Miguel Cruz, was having an affair. Not with some random woman, but with the wife of the most powerful man in Chicago, Victoria Blackwood, the ice queen of high society, the untouchable princess who had everything Samantha could never dream of. And tonight, Samantha was going to confront the man whose wife had stolen her husband. Sebastian Blackwood stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, his tall frame silhouetted against the glittering city lights. At 34, he commanded attention without effort, his midnight black hair perfectly styled, his charcoal Tom Ford tuxedo fitting his athletic build like it was sewn directly onto his body. He was devastatingly handsome in that cold, untouchable way that graced the covers of Fortune and GQ. He was also completely oblivious that his perfect marriage was a lie. Samantha's fingers tightened around the serving tray as she watched him laugh at something Chicago's mayor was saying, his deep voice carrying across the room. Did he know? Did he suspect that while he was building his empire, his wife was in seedy hotel rooms with a construction worker from the South Side? The irony wasn't lost on her. She was serving canapés to the man whose life was about to implode, just like hers had 3 months ago. "Champagne?" she offered to a group of women dripping in diamonds, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her chest. She'd planned this moment for weeks, had memorized Sebastian's schedule, convinced her catering supervisor to put her on this specific event, even practiced what she would say. But now, watching him in his natural habitat of wealth and power, her resolve wavered. Until she saw Victoria. Sebastian's wife glided through the crowd like a swan among ducks, her platinum blonde hair swept into an elegant chignon, her cream-colored Valentino gown probably costing more than Samantha's annual salary. She was breathtakingly beautiful in that cold, perfect way that came from generations of good breeding and unlimited plastic surgery budgets. She was also currently texting someone with a secretive smile on her glossy lips. Samantha knew exactly who was receiving those messages. Her husband, her Miguel, who was supposed to be working a night shift at the construction site, but was probably waiting in some downtown hotel room for his married lover to slip away from her own husband's party. The rage that had been simmering for 3 months finally boiled over. Samantha set down her tray on a nearby table and walked purposefully toward Sebastian, weaving through clusters of Chicago's elite like a woman possessed. She could feel curious eyes following her movement. A server approaching the host was unusual, potentially scandalous. "Perfect." "Mr. Blackwood," she said, her voice cutting through his conversation with the mayor and 2 aldermen. Sebastian turned, his steel blue eyes meeting hers with polite confusion. Up close, he was even more intimidating. 6'3" of controlled power and expensive cologne that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Yes?" His voice was cultured, patient, with just a hint of curiosity at being interrupted by the help. "I need to speak with you. Privately." Samantha glanced meaningfully at Victoria, who was still absorbed in her phone, completely oblivious to the bomb about to detonate her perfect life. "It's about your wife." The change in Sebastian was immediate and subtle. His shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly, his eyes sharpened with the focus of a predator sensing danger. The mayor and aldermen, sensing the shift in atmosphere, quietly excused themselves. I'm sorry, Sebastian said, his voice dropping to a tone that could freeze blood. But I don't discuss my personal life with the catering staff. You will tonight, Samantha replied, pulling her phone from the small clutch hidden beneath her apron. She scrolled to a photo, one of dozens she'd taken over the past month, showing Victoria entering the Palmer House Hotel with Miguel, their bodies pressed together, his construction-calloused hands tangled in her perfectly styled hair. Sebastian's face went completely blank as he stared at the screen. Not angry, not shocked, just utterly, terrifyingly empty. Where did you get this? His voice was barely audible, each word precise and controlled. Your wife has been screwing my husband for 6 months, Samantha said, her voice steady, despite the way her heart was trying to beat out of her chest. Every Tuesday and Friday, Palmer House Hotel, room 1247. She pays for it, obviously, since Miguel couldn't afford a night at the Motel 6. Sebastian's knuckles went white as he gripped her phone, his eyes never leaving the damning image. Around them, the party continued in blissful ignorance, champagne glasses clinking, laughter echoing off the marble walls, Victoria still texting her lover just 20 feet away. What do you want? Sebastian's voice was deadly quiet, the kind of calm that preceded volcanic eruptions. Samantha took a step closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in his blue eyes, close enough to smell the expensive whiskey on his breath. I want to know if you have the courage to face the truth about your perfect marriage. Or are you going to pretend you didn't see this and go back to playing the happy husband? For a long moment, they stared at each other in silence. Samantha could practically feel the dangerous energy radiating from him, not the impotent rage she'd expected, but something far more controlled and infinitely more terrifying. Miss, he said finally. Cruz. Samantha Cruz. Miss Cruz, Sebastian said, handing her phone back with movements so controlled they seemed almost mechanical. You have just made a very dangerous enemy. Which one of us? Samantha challenged, glancing toward Victoria, who was now heading toward the elevator with her phone pressed to her ear, probably making excuses to leave early for another rendezvous. Sebastian followed her gaze, and Samantha saw his jaw clench as he watched his wife disappear into the elevator. When he looked back at Samantha, there was something new in his eyes, something dark and calculating that made her stomach flip with equal parts fear and unexpected attraction. Both, he said, stepping so close she could feel the heat radiating from his body. But I'm the one you should be worried about. Is that a threat? Samantha lifted her chin defiantly, refusing to be intimidated despite the way her pulse was racing. Sebastian's lips curved into a smile that was all predator, no warmth. Miss Cruz, that's a promise. 24 hours later, Samantha sat in the cramped kitchen of her South Side apartment, staring at her phone like it might explode. She'd been doing that for the past hour, ever since the first news alert had popped up on her screen. Blackwood Industries stock plummets amid divorce rumors. Girl, you need to put that thing down before you burn a hole through it with your laser vision, came a voice from the doorway. Samantha looked up to see her best friend and roommate, Jazz Williams, standing there with 2 steaming mugs of coffee and a bag of donuts from the corner bakery. Jazz was everything Samantha wasn't. Tall, curvy, with natural confidence that could light up a room and zero filter between her brain and her mouth. I think I might have made a huge mistake, Samantha admitted, accepting the coffee gratefully. Honey, you walked into a billionaire's party and basically told him his wife's been playing hide the sausage with your husband. Of course you made a huge mistake. Jazz plopped down in the opposite chair, her wild curls bouncing. The question is, do you regret it? Before Samantha could answer, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. We need to talk. Tonight, 8 p.m. Address attached. Come alone. SB. Jazz, who had the supernatural ability to read upside-down text, nearly choked on her coffee. Oh, hell no. Absolutely not. That man probably has you on a hit list by now. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Sam, you just poked a sleeping dragon with a very expensive stick. This isn't some telenovela where the rich guy falls for the poor girl after she destroys his life. This is real life, where rich guys have lawyers and security teams and probably connections to people who make problems disappear. Samantha's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Miguel. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up." "Yeah, I bet you are," she muttered, showing Jazz the message. "That lying piece of—" Jazz started, then caught herself. "Sorry. I know you still love him." "Do I?" Samantha stared at Miguel's contact photo. A picture from their wedding day where he looked so happy, so genuine. "I thought I did. But maybe I just loved the idea of him. The life we were supposed to have. And now I'm angry. And I want answers. From both of them." Jazz reached across the table and grabbed Samantha's hands. "Okay. But promise me you won't go to meet Mr. Billionaire revenge fantasy alone. What if it's a trap? What's he going to do? Murder me in broad daylight? It's at 8 p.m., so technically not daylight. And also, have you never watched a crime show? Rich people don't murder you themselves. They pay other people to do it." Despite everything, Samantha found herself laughing. "You watch too much TV. And you don't watch enough. Promise me you'll be careful. Better yet, promise me you'll let me come with you." He said, "Come alone." "Since when do you follow orders from men who threaten you?" Samantha's phone rang, interrupting their debate. The caller ID made her stomach drop. "Miguel." "Answer it," Jazz whispered. "Put it on speaker." With trembling fingers, Samantha accepted the call. "Hi, baby." "Hey, mi amor. How was the catering gig last night?" The casual way he asked made her blood boil. He had no idea she knew. No idea his whole double life was about to come crashing down. "Oh, you know, same old rich people problems," she said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "Actually, I met someone interesting." "Yeah? Another server?" "No, Sebastian Blackwood." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that Samantha wondered if the call had dropped. Jazz was making frantic hand gestures, clearly thinking this was a terrible idea. The businessman?" Miguel's voice sounded strange, strained. Turns out we have something in common." "What could you possibly have in common with someone like that?" Samantha closed her eyes, feeling the moment crystallize around her like glass about to shatter. Cheating spouses. The sharp intake of breath was audible even through the phone. Jazz's eyes went wide, and she started making cutting motions across her throat. "Sam, I don't know what you're talking about." "Palmer House Hotel, room 1247, every Tuesday and Friday for the past 6 months." Her voice was eerily calm. "Should I continue, or are you going to keep lying to me?" The line went dead. "Holy shit," Jazz breathed. "You actually did it. You actually confronted him." Samantha set the phone down with shaking hands. "I can't believe I just—" The phone immediately started ringing again. "Miguel." She declined the call. It rang again and again. "Turn it off," Jazz advised. "He'll keep calling until you answer, and right now, you're too emotional to have that conversation." Samantha powered down the phone, suddenly feeling exhausted. "What am I doing, Jazz? My whole life is falling apart." "No, baby girl. Your whole life was already apart. You just didn't know it. Now you get to decide what to build with the pieces." Before Samantha could respond, there was a sharp knock at their apartment door. Both women froze. "Expecting someone?" Jazz whispered. "No." The knock came again, more insistent this time. Jazz grabbed a baseball bat from behind the door, a precaution they'd adopted after moving to this neighborhood. "Stay behind me." She approached the door cautiously and peered through the peephole. Her jaw dropped. Sam, you need to see this." Samantha joined her at the peephole and felt her heart skip several beats. Standing in their shabby hallway, looking completely out of place in his expensive suit, was Sebastian Blackwood himself. "Is that—" Jazz whispered. "Yeah." "In our building?" "Yeah." Looking like a Calvin Klein ad? Jazz, focus. Right, okay. So what do we do? Pretend we're not home? The knock came again, followed by a deep voice that somehow managed to sound both patient and threatening. Miss Cruz, I know you're in there. We need to talk. How does he even know where I live? Samantha hissed. Honey, he's a billionaire. He probably knows your social security number and your high school GPA by now. Sebastian's voice came through the door again. I'm not leaving until we discuss our mutual problem. Jazz looked at Samantha with raised eyebrows. Mutual problem. Against every instinct screaming at her to run, Samantha reached for the door locks. There's only one way to find out what he wants. This is how horror movies start, Jazz muttered, but she stepped back to give Samantha room. Samantha opened the door and immediately regretted it. If Sebastian had been intimidating in his penthouse surrounded by luxury, he was absolutely devastating in her cramped apartment hallway. He seemed to fill the entire space with his presence, his steel blue eyes taking in every detail of their modest surroundings without a trace of judgment, which somehow made it worse. Mr. Blackwood, she said, proud that her voice didn't shake, this is unexpected. I'm sure it is. His gaze shifted to Jazz, who was still clutching the baseball bat. Miss Williams, I presume? Jazz's mouth fell open. How do you... I told you, he knows everything, Samantha muttered. She stepped back reluctantly. I suppose you'd better come in. Sebastian entered their small living room, and immediately the space felt even more cramped. He was too tall, too polished, too everything for their thrift store furniture and hand-me-down decorations. Can I offer you something to drink? Samantha asked automatically, then immediately felt stupid. We have coffee. Or tap water. I'm fine, thank you. Sebastian's eyes swept the room, taking in the mismatched furniture, the stack of bills on the counter, the general wear and tear of people living paycheck to paycheck. We need to discuss what happens next. What happens next, Jazz said, still holding the bat, is you leave my friend alone. She told you about your cheating wife. End of story. Sebastian's attention shifted to Jazz with laser focus. Miss Williams, while I appreciate your loyalty to your friend, this situation is considerably more complicated than you realize. Complicated how? Samantha demanded. Sebastian reached into his jacket pocket, and both women tensed, but instead of a weapon, he pulled out a manila envelope. Because, he said, setting it on their coffee table, your husband and my wife didn't just have an affair. They stole $50 million from my company to fund their escape plan. The silence that followed was deafening. I'm sorry, Jazz said finally. Did you just say $50 million? Sebastian's smile was cold and sharp as a blade. Miss Cruz, it appears we both have much bigger problems than infidelity. $50 million, Jazz repeated slowly, like she was testing how the word sounded. With an M, as in millions. Sebastian nodded grimly. Transferred over the past 6 months in small increments to avoid detection. Very sophisticated for a construction worker. Hey now, Jazz interjected, pointing her baseball bat at him. Don't go throwing shade at blue-collar workers. Miguel might be a lying, cheating snake, but construction workers are generally good people. Jazz, Samantha said weakly, sinking onto their second-hand couch. Focus. $50 million. Right. Sorry. Back to the astronomical theft that apparently my best friend's scumbag husband committed. Jazz turned to Sebastian. And you're sure about this? Sebastian opened the manila envelope and spread several documents across their coffee table. Bank statements, wire transfer records, security footage timestamps, all bearing Miguel's signature or image. Your husband had access to our construction sites, Sebastian explained, his voice clinical and detached. He was crew chief on 3 of our major projects. Apparently, Victoria provided him with internal financial codes and account numbers. Samantha stared at a photograph of Miguel entering a Chase Bank branch, a briefcase in his hand. The timestamp showed last Tuesday, the same day he'd told her he was working a double shift. I don't understand, she said. Miguel barely graduated high school. He doesn't know anything about financial systems or wire transfers. No, but my wife does. She has an MBA from Wharton and access to all my business accounts. Sebastian's jaw tightened. She played the perfect corporate wife while systematically robbing me blind. Jazz plopped down beside Samantha, finally setting aside the baseball bat. Okay, so, let me get this straight. Ice Queen Victoria seduces our girl's husband, teaches him how to steal from her own husband, and now they're planning to ride off into the sunset with $50 million. That's the theory. And where exactly are Bonnie and Clyde now? Sebastian pulled out his phone and showed them a screenshot of Victoria's Instagram story from 3 hours ago. The image showed 2 champagne glasses clinking together on what appeared to be a private jet with the caption, "New adventures await." "They're in the air," he said. "Flight plan filed for the Cayman Islands." Samantha felt like she was going to be sick. The Cayman Islands, where there's no extradition treaty. Exactly. Sebastian pocketed his phone. By tomorrow morning, they'll disappear completely. New identities, new lives, and my $50 million. Your $50 million? Jazz raised an eyebrow. What about Sam's marriage? Her life? Her trust in humanity? I didn't mean to diminish, because right now you sound like you only care about the money. Sebastian looked genuinely surprised by the accusation. Of course I care about the money. It's my company's money. But I also understand that Miss Cruz has been betrayed just as completely as I have. Sam, Jazz corrected. Her name is Sam. And yeah, she's been betrayed, but she doesn't have $50 million to cushion the blow. An uncomfortable silence settled over the room. Samantha studied Sebastian's face, looking for any sign of the cold, arrogant man she'd confronted at the party. Instead, she saw something she hadn't expected. Genuine remorse. You're right, he said quietly. I apologize. This situation is difficult for both of us. Difficult, Samantha repeated. That's one way to put it. She looked at the evidence scattered across her coffee table. So what happens now? Do we call the police? The FBI? We could, Sebastian said carefully. But by the time any law enforcement agency gets involved, they'll be long gone. The Caymans don't cooperate with U.S. authorities on financial crimes, especially when the stolen funds are already deposited there. So they just get away with it? Jazz demanded. That's bullshit. Not necessarily. Sebastian leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Samantha. There is another option. Which is? We go after them ourselves. Jazz snorted. Right, because that always works out well in movies. Let me guess, you have a private jet and a team of mercenaries just waiting around? I have a private jet, Sebastian confirmed, and contacts in the Caymans. People who might be willing to help us locate them before they vanish completely. Us? Samantha stared at him. As in, you want me to come with you? I need you to come with me. You know your husband better than anyone, his habits, his tells, where he might go if he's feeling scared or cornered. And what makes you think I want to help you get your money back? Sebastian was quiet for a long moment, studying her face with those intense blue eyes. Because you want answers just as much as I do. You want to look them in the eye and ask them why they destroyed everything for money. He was right, and Samantha hated that he was right. This is insane, Jazz said. You're talking about chasing international criminals to a foreign country. What if they're dangerous? What if they have weapons? What if they get away with it? Samantha interrupted softly. What if Miguel just disappears and I never get to ask him why I wasn't enough? Jazz's expression softened. Oh, honey. I need to know, Jazz. I need to understand how the man I married, the man I trusted with everything, could do this to me. And the money? Sebastian asked. $50 million could do a lot of good for people like your community. Schools, hospitals, job training programs. Are you seriously trying to guilt-trip her right now? Jazz glared at him. I'm pointing out that this isn't just about personal betrayal. That money was earmarked for low-income housing projects. Affordable homes for families who can't find decent places to live. Sebastian's voice was steady, but there was an edge of passion there that surprised Samantha. Your husband and my wife didn't just steal from me. They stole from hundreds of families who needed those homes. Samantha felt something shift inside her chest. She'd been so focused on the personal betrayal that she hadn't considered the bigger picture. "How long do we have?" she asked. "If we leave tonight, we might reach them before they establish new identities. Once they do that," Sebastian shrugged, "they become ghosts." "Tonight?" Jazz jumped up. "Absolutely not. No way. I forbid it." "You forbid it?" Sebastian asked, amused despite the circumstances. "I'm her best friend. It's in the job description. Right between provide emotional support and talk her out of stupid decisions involving dangerous billionaires." "I'm not dangerous," Sebastian protested. "You literally threatened her last night." "That was before I knew we were on the same side." "And what side is that exactly?" Sebastian looked directly at Samantha when he answered. "The side of people who deserve better than being betrayed by the people they love." Jazz looked between them with growing alarm. "Oh no, 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 no. I see what's happening here. This is how it starts in all the romance novels. Shared trauma, mutual enemies, a private jet to an exotic location." "This isn't a romance novel," Samantha said quickly, though she felt heat creeping up her neck. "Uh-huh. And I suppose you haven't noticed that Mr. Billionaire here looks like he stepped off the cover of Forbes's Sexiest CEOs issue?" "There's no such thing as Forbes's Sexiest CEOs issue," Sebastian said. "There should be. You'd probably win." Jazz threw her hands up in exasperation. "Sam, please tell me you're not seriously considering this." Samantha looked at the evidence on her coffee table again. Photos of Miguel with Victoria, bank statements showing their theft, a social media post flaunting their escape. "I'm considering it," she admitted. "Then I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not." "Then you're not going." Sebastian cleared his throat. "While I appreciate the sisterly bond, time is a factor here. Miss—" "Sam, I need an answer." Samantha closed her eyes, trying to think past the hurt and anger and confusion. When she opened them again, Sebastian was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I want your word that this is about getting answers, not revenge. You have it. And if we find them, we handle this legally. No vigilante justice, no matter how tempting." "Agreed." "And Jazz comes with us." "What?" both Sebastian and Jazz said simultaneously. "If I'm going to chase my cheating husband across international waters with a man I barely know, I'm bringing backup." Sebastian looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Samantha's expression must have warned him off. "Fine, but we leave in 2 hours." 2 hours? Jazz squeaked. "I need to pack and call in sick to work and write a will." "You don't need a will," Samantha said. "I'm about to get on a plane with a billionaire to hunt down international thieves. I absolutely need a will." Sebastian stood, gathering the documents from the coffee table. 2 hours. I'll send a car." He headed for the door, then paused and looked back at Samantha. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About your husband. About all of this." After he left, Jazz turned to Samantha with wide eyes. "Girl, what have we gotten ourselves into?" Samantha stared at the door Sebastian had just walked through, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. "I have absolutely no idea." "Holy shit," Jazz breathed, stopping dead in her tracks on the tarmac at Chicago Executive Airport. "That's not a plane, that's a flying palace." Samantha had to admit her best friend had a point. Sebastian's private jet gleamed under the runway lights like something out of a movie. Sleek, white, and absolutely massive. The kind of aircraft that probably cost more than most people's houses. "Gulfstream G650, Sebastian said casually, appearing beside them with a leather overnight bag slung over his shoulder. "Range of 7,000 miles, so we can make it to Grand Cayman non-stop." "Of course you know the exact specifications of your own plane," Jazz muttered. I bet you know how many thread counts are in the seat cushions, too. Actually, that was rhetorical, Mr. Moneybags, Jazz interrupted, then immediately looked mortified. Sorry, I'm nervous. And when I'm nervous, I get sarcastic. Well, more sarcastic than usual. Sebastian's lips twitched with what might have been amusement. It's fine, and please call me Sebastian. If we're going to be travel companions, we might as well use first names. As they climbed the stairs into the aircraft, Samantha felt like she was entering another dimension. The interior was all cream leather and polished wood, with seats that looked more like armchairs and a dining area that could seat 8 people comfortably. This is bigger than our apartment, Jazz whispered to Samantha. I heard that, Sebastian said, settling into one of the captain's chairs. And yes, it probably is. Jazz explored the cabin with undisguised wonder, opening cabinet doors and testing the softness of the leather seats. Does this thing have a bedroom? There's a sleep compartment in the back, yes. A sleep compartment, not a bed. A sleep compartment. Jazz shook her head. Rich people have different words for everything, don't they? Despite the gravity of their situation, Samantha found herself smiling. Trust Jazz to find humor, even when they were chasing international criminals. Can I get you ladies anything before takeoff? A flight attendant appeared from somewhere in the front of the plane, a polished woman in her 40s with perfect makeup and a crisp uniform. Coffee would be great, Samantha said. I'll have whatever's most expensive, Jazz declared. If I'm flying on a billionaire's dime, I'm going full luxury. We have Dom Perignon 2010, if you'd like champagne, the attendant offered. Dom Perignon. See, that's what I'm talking about. Jazz grinned at Samantha. When will we ever get another chance to drink champagne that costs more than our monthly rent? As the attendant bustled away to prepare their drinks, Sebastian pulled out his phone and began scrolling through what looked like financial documents. Working already? Samantha asked, settling into the seat across from him. Trying to trace their movements. Victoria used one of our corporate credit cards to book the jet, but she's been careful about covering her tracks since then. How careful? Careful enough to know what she's doing. She's been planning this for months, maybe longer. The thought hit Samantha like a physical blow. While she'd been planning their anniversary dinner and worrying about Miguel working too many double shifts, her husband had been planning to abandon her completely. Hey, Sebastian said softly, looking up from his phone. You okay? Just processing. 6 months ago, I thought I had a good marriage. Now I find out it was all a lie. I know the feeling. Sebastian set his phone aside. Victoria and I have been married for 3 years. Looking back, I can see the signs I missed. The late nights, the mysterious phone calls, the sudden interest in my business operations. How long have you suspected? Honestly, part of me has known something was wrong for over a year, but I told myself it was work stress, or the pressure of being in the public eye. It's easier to make excuses than face the truth. The flight attendant returned with their drinks, coffee for Samantha, champagne for Jazz, and what looked like whiskey neat for Sebastian. Starting early, Jazz observed, raising her champagne flute. It's been a long day, Sebastian replied, taking a sip. And it's about to get longer, Samantha added. The plane began to taxi toward the runway, and Jazz gripped her armrests with white knuckles. I should mention that I'm not a great flyer, she said through gritted teeth. The Gulf Stream is very stable, Sebastian assured her. You'll barely feel the takeoff. Easy for you to say. You probably have your own pilot's license. Actually, I do. Jazz stared at him. Of course you do. Let me guess. You also speak 5 languages and have a black belt in karate? 4 languages, and it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu, not karate. Jesus Christ, Jazz muttered, downing half her champagne in one gulp. Sam, your revenge partner is basically James Bond. He's not my revenge partner, Samantha protested, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. No? Then what is he? He's... Samantha looked at Sebastian, who was watching their exchange with barely concealed amusement. He's someone who got screwed over by the same people I did. Mm-hmm. Jazz drained the rest of her champagne. And it has nothing to do with the fact that he looks like a Calvin Klein model and smells like expensive sin? Jazz! What? I'm just saying, if I had to be betrayed by my husband and team up with a mysterious billionaire to chase him across international waters, I'd want him to look exactly like Sebastian. Sebastian nearly choked on his whiskey. Expensive sin? Your cologne, Jazz explained matter-of-factly. It probably costs more than Sam's monthly salary and smells like it could make grown women do stupid things. Jazz, please stop talking, Samantha begged. Why? We're stuck on this plane for the next 4 hours. Might as well get to know each other. The plane lifted off smoothly, and Jazz gradually relaxed her death grip on the armrests. Outside the windows, Chicago's lights fell away beneath them as they climbed into the night sky. So, Jazz continued, apparently emboldened by the champagne. What's your story, Sebastian? Born rich, or did you work your way up from humble beginnings? Jazz, Samantha warned. It's okay, Sebastian said. Born rich, unfortunately. Third-generation wealth. Sometimes I think that's part of the problem. How so? When you grow up with everything handed to you, it's easy to take things for granted. People, relationships, loyalty. He swirled his whiskey thoughtfully. Maybe if I'd had to work for Victoria's affection, instead of assuming it came with the marriage contract, things would have been different. Or maybe she's just a gold-digging, husband-stealing bitch who saw an easy mark, Jazz suggested helpfully. Jazz! Samantha was mortified. What? I'm being supportive. Team Sebastian. Sebastian laughed. A real laugh, not the polite corporate chuckle Samantha had heard at the party. Thank you, Jazz. I think. You're welcome. Now what's the plan once we get to Grand Cayman? Do we have contacts there, or are we just going to wander around asking if anyone's seen 2 cheating Americans with $50 million? I have a friend who works for one of the banks there. If Miguel and Victoria transferred the money, he might be able to track the transactions. And if they've already moved on to another country? Sebastian's expression darkened. Then we follow them, however long it takes. Samantha studied his profile as he stared out the window. This isn't just about the money for you, is it? What do you mean? I mean, $50 million is a lot of money, but you're worth, what, a couple billion? You could absorb the loss. So why chase them personally instead of letting law enforcement handle it? Sebastian was quiet for so long that Samantha wondered if he was going to answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. Because I loved her. Despite everything, despite the signs I ignored and the excuses I made, I loved my wife. And she threw that away for money and a man she barely knew. The raw honesty in his voice made Samantha's chest ache. I understand. Do you? Love Miguel, I mean. Samantha considered the question. Did she still love the man who'd betrayed her so completely? The man who was probably in bed with another woman at this very moment? I loved who I thought he was, she said finally. I'm not sure that person ever really existed. Maybe that's why we need to do this, Sebastian said. To find out who they really are, and who we are without them. Jazz, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during this exchange, raised her empty champagne flute. Well, here's to finding out who we really are, and to making the bastards pay. Despite everything, Samantha found herself smiling. I'll drink to that. As the plane soared through the night sky toward an uncertain confrontation, Samantha realized that for the first time in months, she wasn't thinking about Miguel's betrayal or her ruined marriage. She was thinking about the man sitting across from her and wondering if chasing criminals across international waters was the craziest thing she'd ever done. Or if falling for Sebastian Blackwood might be even crazier. The Cayman Islands at sunrise were everything the travel brochures promised and more. Crystal clear turquoise water stretched to the horizon. Palm trees swayed in the tropical breeze, and the air smelled like hibiscus and sea salt. It would have been absolutely perfect if they weren't there to hunt down international criminals. Okay, I officially hate them even more now, Jazz announced, stepping off the plane onto the tarmac at Owen Roberts Airport. If you're going to steal $50 million and destroy 2 marriages, at least have the decency to hide somewhere ugly. Like Newark. Samantha had to admit the setting felt like salt in the wound. The kind of paradise she and Miguel had dreamed of visiting someday, back when she'd believed in their someday. The car should be waiting, Sebastian said, checking his phone as they walked through the small but efficient customs checkpoint. His contacts had apparently smoothed their entry process considerably. No questions asked about their sudden arrival or lack of return tickets. Please tell me we're not staying at some 5-star resort where Miguel and Victoria might see us, Samantha said. We're staying at the Ritz-Carlton, Sebastian replied without thinking, then caught her expression. What? It's where I always stay when I'm here on business. Of course it is, Jazz muttered. God forbid you slum it at a Holiday Inn like normal people. Do they even have Holiday Inns here? That's not the point. A black SUV with tinted windows waited outside the airport, along with a driver who looked like he moonlighted as a bodyguard. He nodded respectfully at Sebastian and held the door open for them. Marcus, Sebastian said by way of greeting. Any word from your contact at the bank? Yes, sir. Devin can meet with you this afternoon, but he says to be discreet. This kind of information sharing isn't exactly standard procedure. As they drove through Georgetown, Samantha was struck by how civilized and normal everything looked. She'd half expected some kind of lawless haven for international criminals, but the Cayman Islands looked more like an upscale beach town than a den of financial iniquity. So what's the plan? She asked. We find out where they transferred the money, then what? Then we find them, Sebastian said. The money trail will lead us to wherever they're planning to settle. And when we find them? Sebastian's jaw tightened. Then we get our answers. Jazz leaned forward from the back seat. Can I just say, this is either going to be the most romantic story ever or the most tragic? There's really no middle ground here. It's not romantic, Samantha protested automatically. Girl, you're chasing your cheating husband across international waters with a mysterious billionaire who looks like he stepped out of a Ralph Lauren ad. If that's not romantic, I don't know what is. It's practical, Sebastian said. But there was something in his tone that made Samantha glance at him sideways. Practical, Jazz repeated. Right. Is that what we're calling it when you stare at Sam like she hung the moon? I do not. And Sam, honey, you've been checking out his hands for the past 10 minutes. Samantha felt heat flood her cheeks. I have not been... She stopped, because she actually had been studying Sebastian's hands. They were elegant but strong, with long fingers and a simple platinum wedding band that he hadn't removed yet. This is ridiculous, she muttered. What's ridiculous is that you're both pretending there's nothing happening here, Jazz said cheerfully. The sexual tension is so thick I could cut it with a knife. Jazz, please stop talking, Samantha begged. Why? It's a 4-hour car ride to the hotel. We need entertainment. It's a 20-minute car ride, Sebastian corrected. Even better. More concentrated awkwardness. Marcus caught Sebastian's eye in the rearview mirror. Your friend is very... direct. She's not my friend, Sebastian said quickly. I mean, she's Miss Cruz's friend, not... Oh my God, Jazz interrupted. You're both hopeless. Sam, put this man out of his misery and admit you think he's attractive. Sebastian, grow a pair and admit you like her. I am not having this conversation, Samantha said firmly. Fine, I'll have it for you. Jazz cleared her throat dramatically. Sebastian, Sam thinks you're hot, but she's scared because she just found out her husband is a lying snake, and she doesn't trust her judgment in men anymore. Sam, Sebastian likes you, but he's trying to be a gentleman because you're technically still married and he's technically still married and the timing is all wrong. The silence in the car was deafening. There, Jazz said, satisfied. Now we can all stop pretending and focus on catching the bad guys. They pulled up to the Ritz-Carlton, and Samantha had never been more grateful to escape a vehicle in her life. The hotel was exactly as elegant as she'd expected, all marble and crystal and staff members who probably earned more in tips than she made in a month. 2 adjoining suites, Sebastian told the desk clerk. 3 rooms, Jazz corrected quickly. I am not sharing a room with either of you while all this unresolved sexual tension is floating around. The desk clerk's professional smile never wavered, though his eyebrows rose slightly. 3 rooms, Sebastian amended. As they rode the elevator to the top floor, because of course Sebastian had booked the penthouse level, Jazz continued her running commentary. I've decided I like being rich, she announced. This is nice. I could get used to this. You're not rich, Samantha pointed out. Sebastian is rich. We're just temporary rich adjacent. Details. I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. Jazz paused. Do you think they have those little bottles of fancy shampoo? I want to take some home. I'll buy you a case of fancy shampoo if it keeps you from stealing hotel amenities, Sebastian said. Really? Because I was also eyeing those fluffy bathrobes. Whatever you want. Jazz grinned at Samantha. I like him. He can stay. Their rooms were, predictably, stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked 7 Mile Beach, and the ocean stretched endlessly toward the horizon. Samantha's suite was bigger than her entire Chicago apartment, with a marble bathroom that could have accommodated a small party. The bank meeting is in 2 hours, Sebastian said, appearing in the doorway between their adjoining rooms. Devin suggested we meet somewhere public but quiet. There's a cafe downtown that should work. And after that? After that, we follow the trail wherever it leads. Samantha nodded, trying to focus on the mission instead of the fact that Sebastian had changed into khakis and a linen shirt that made his eyes look even bluer than usual. Sam, he said softly. Yeah? Are you sure you want to do this? Once we find them, there's no going back. You'll have to face whatever Miguel tells you, and it might not be what you want to hear. She thought about it for a moment, looking out at the paradise where her husband was hiding with another woman. I'm sure, she said. I need to know the truth, even if it hurts. Sebastian nodded. Then let's go get our answers. 2 hours later, they sat in a small cafe overlooking the harbor while Devin, Sebastian's banking contact, spread photocopied documents across their table like he was dealing cards. Your wife is smart, Devin said quietly, his British accent making everything sound more official. She moved the money through 6 different accounts across 3 different banks, all under various shell company names. But you traced it? Sebastian asked. Eventually, yes. The final destination appears to be a private account under the name Paradise Holdings Ltd. 50 million, minus about 2 million in transfer fees and setup costs. Where's the account based? Samantha asked. Devin smiled grimly. Here, Grand Cayman. They never left the island. Jazz choked on her iced tea. They're still here, right now? As far as I can tell. And they've been busy. They purchased a villa on the north side yesterday. Cash transaction, no financing. Sebastian leaned forward. Do you have an address? I shouldn't be doing this, Devin muttered, but he slid another piece of paper across the table. Rum Point Drive. It's isolated, expensive, and perfect for people who want to disappear. Samantha stared at the address, her heart pounding. After months of betrayal and weeks of wondering, Miguel was less than an hour away. So what now? She asked. Sebastian's smile was sharp as a blade. Now we pay them a surprise visit. As they left the cafe, Jazz grabbed Samantha's arm. Are you ready for this? Samantha thought about Miguel, about their wedding day, about all the lies and all the plans for a future that had never been real. I'm ready, she said. She just hoped she was telling the truth. The villa on Rum Point Drive was everything Samantha had expected, and worse. A sprawling Mediterranean-style mansion perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, with manicured gardens and an infinity pool that seemed to blend seamlessly with the Caribbean horizon. It was the kind of place she and Miguel used to fantasize about visiting someday. Now Miguel was living there with another woman, funded by stolen money. Okay, so what's the plan? Jazz whispered, as they crouched behind a cluster of palm trees at the edge of the property. Do we knock on the front door, sneak around back, call the police? We go to the front door, Sebastian said, his voice steady but his jaw tight with controlled anger. "We're not criminals. We're here for answers." Samantha's heart was beating so hard she could hear it in her ears. After months of wondering, weeks of investigating, and days of chasing, she was about to face the man who had destroyed her life. "I can do this alone if you want," Sebastian offered quietly. "You don't have to see him if you're not ready." "I'm ready," Samantha said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. "I need to hear it from him." They walked up the winding stone path to the front door, their footsteps echoing in the tropical silence. The house was even more impressive up close, all arched windows and terracotta tiles, with bougainvillea climbing the walls in cascades of pink and purple. Sebastian raised his hand to knock, then paused. "Whatever they say, whatever excuses they make, remember that none of this is your fault." Before Samantha could respond, the door swung open. Victoria Blackwood stood there in a white silk caftan, her platinum hair loose around her shoulders, looking like she'd stepped out of a luxury resort brochure. Her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, fear, and finally, resignation. "Hello, darling," she said to Sebastian with practiced calm. "I wondered when you'd find us." "Victoria." Sebastian's voice was ice cold. "Enjoying your stolen retirement?" "It's not stolen. I earned every penny of that money putting up with your neglect for 3 years. Jazz made a sound of outrage, but Samantha held up a hand to stop her from speaking. This wasn't their fight yet. "Where is he?" Samantha asked. Victoria's gaze shifted to her with obvious disdain. "And you must be the little wife. Miguel told me so much about you." The condescension in her voice made Samantha's blood boil, but she kept her composure. "I asked where he is." "Miguel!" Victoria called over her shoulder. "Your wife is here." Footsteps echoed through the marble foyer, and then Miguel appeared behind Victoria. Samantha's breath caught in her throat. He looked different, tanned, relaxed, wearing expensive clothes she'd never seen before. He looked like a man without a care in the world. Until he saw her. "Sam," he breathed, his face going pale. "What are you doing here? What am I doing here?" Samantha stepped forward, her hands clenched into fists. "What am I doing here? Miguel, you stole $50 million and ran away with a married woman, and you're asking what I'm doing here?" "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think." The words exploded out of her. "You've been lying to me for months. Every double shift, every late meeting, every time you came home smelling like her perfume and told me it was nothing." Miguel's eyes darted between her and Sebastian, looking trapped. "Sam, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you fell in love with a woman who was just using you to steal from her husband. How you threw away 8 years together for money." Samantha's voice cracked. "How you made me feel like I wasn't enough." "You weren't," Victoria said coolly, examining her manicured nails. "Miguel needed a real woman, not some little girl playing house." Jazz stepped forward menacingly. "Oh, hell no. Nobody talks to my girl like that." "Jazz, don't," Samantha said. But her voice was steady now. The hurt was transforming into something else, something fiercer. "She's not worth it." Sebastian moved to stand beside Samantha, a gesture of solidarity that wasn't lost on any of them. "The money, Victoria. Transfer it back and we might consider not pressing charges." Victoria laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Press charges? For what? Taking what was rightfully mine after years of being ignored and undervalued?" "You were never ignored," Sebastian said quietly. "I gave you everything you asked for. Everything except your attention, your respect, your time." Victoria's mask of composure began to crack. "Do you know what it's like being married to a man who cares more about his business than his wife? Do you know what it's like being married to a woman who's been stealing from you while sleeping with someone else?" Sebastian shot back. "At least Miguel appreciates me," Victoria snapped. "Miguel appreciates your money," Samantha said, finding her voice again. "Miguel, tell me something. Do you love her, or do you love what she can give you?" Miguel's silence was answer enough. I thought so. Samantha turned to Victoria. And you? Do you love him? Or is he just convenient revenge against a husband who didn't worship you enough? Victoria's laugh was bitter. Love? Darling, love is for people who can afford it. I prefer security. Then you're both pathetic, Jazz said bluntly. You destroyed 2 marriages for money and revenge, and you don't even love each other. We don't need love, Miguel said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. We have everything we need here. Do you? Samantha asked. Because you look miserable, Miguel. You look like a man who knows he made the biggest mistake of his life. For a moment, Miguel's carefully constructed facade cracked, and Samantha saw a glimpse of the man she'd married. The man who used to bring her flowers from the construction sites and dream about their future together. It doesn't matter now, he said quietly. I can't go back. You could, Samantha said. We could figure it out, go to the police together, make this right. No. Victoria stepped possessively closer to Miguel. We're not going anywhere. This is our life now. Built on lies and stolen money, Sebastian observed. Built on taking what we deserved, Victoria corrected. Samantha looked between them, Miguel, who wouldn't meet her eyes, and Victoria, who stared back defiantly. She realized that she'd been hoping for something that was never going to come, an apology, an explanation that made sense, some sign that their 8 years together had meant something. But Miguel had made his choice, and it wasn't her. You know what? Samantha said, surprised by how calm she felt. Keep it. Keep the money. Keep each other. Keep this beautiful prison you've built yourselves. Everyone stared at her in shock. Sam, Jazz started. No, I mean it. Samantha looked at Miguel directly for the first time since he'd appeared. I spent months wondering what I did wrong, what I could have done differently. But this isn't about me. This is about you choosing to be the kind of person who steals and lies and abandons the people who love them. Sam, Miguel started. I'm not finished. Her voice was steady, strong. I loved you, Miguel. I loved you enough to forgive almost anything. But I won't forgive you for making me doubt myself. I won't forgive you for making me feel like I wasn't enough when the truth is, you're not enough. Not for me, not for anyone. She turned to Victoria. And you. You had a husband who built an empire, who would have given you anything you asked for. And instead of talking to him about what you needed, you chose to steal from him and destroy 2 marriages. You deserve each other. Samantha spun on her heel and walked away, not toward the car, but toward the cliff overlooking the ocean. She needed air, space, distance from the toxic drama behind her. Sebastian found her there a few minutes later, standing at the edge of the world with the wind in her hair. Are you okay? He asked. I'm furious, she said, and heartbroken and relieved, and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with my life now. You could start by living it, Sebastian said. Really living it, not just surviving it. Samantha turned to look at him. Is that what you're going to do? I'm going to try. He stepped closer. Sam, I know the timing is terrible, and I know we're both technically still married to other people, but Jazz was right. About the way I look at you. About the way you look at me. About all of it. Samantha's heart started racing again, but this time it wasn't from fear or anger. Sebastian, I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I'm just asking you not to rule out the possibility that something good could come from all this mess. Before she could respond, Jazz's voice carried across the garden. Hey, lovebirds! We've got company! They turned to see police cars pulling up the driveway, their blue lights flashing in the tropical afternoon. Did you call them? Samantha asked. Sebastian shook his head. Must have been Devon. Banking regulations probably require him to report suspicious transfers. As they watched Miguel and Victoria being led away in handcuffs, Samantha felt a strange sense of closure. Not happy, exactly, but complete. So what happens now? She asked. Sebastian smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him since this whole ordeal began. Now we go home. We file for divorce. We figure out who we are when we're not trying to fix broken marriages. And then, he said, taking her hand, we see what happens next. Jazz appeared beside them, grinning broadly. Well, that was dramatic. Very telenovela. Very satisfying. Although I'm a little disappointed nobody got slapped. The day is young, Samantha said dryly. True. So, are we staying for the sunset or heading back to the hotel? Because I vote hotel. I want to try out that fancy room service menu while we're still on the billionaire's dime. Sebastian laughed. Hotel it is. But first, he turned to Samantha. Do you have the courage to tell me yes when I ask if you'll have dinner with me tonight? Not as partners in crime solving, but as whatever we want to be. Samantha looked at him. Really looked at him. At his hopeful expression, his gentle smile, his hand still holding hers. At the man who had helped her find her strength and her voice. Yes, she said. I have the courage. As they walked back toward the car, Jazz trailing behind them, muttering about rich people drama, Samantha realized that for the first time in months, she was looking forward to tomorrow. And to whatever came after that. Epilogue. 6 months later. I still can't believe you bought the entire restaurant just so we could have our 6-month anniversary dinner in private, Samantha said, looking around the empty Chicago bistro where a staff of 5 was preparing to serve only them. Sebastian shrugged, adjusting his tie nervously. I wanted it to be special. It would have been special if we'd gone to McDonald's, Samantha assured him. Although Jazz would never forgive you if she missed out on fancy food. Speaking of Jazz, where is she? She was supposed to be here by now. She's probably trying to decide which dress makes her look most like a proper maid of honor, Samantha said without thinking, then froze. I mean, not that this is... I didn't mean to imply... Sebastian dropped to one knee beside her chair, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. Actually, he said, his voice slightly shaky, I was hoping you did mean to imply exactly that. Samantha's hands flew to her mouth. Sebastian, Samantha Cruz, you are the strongest, most courageous, most beautiful woman I've ever known. You saved my company, you saved my sanity, and you saved my heart. Will you marry me? He opened the box to reveal a stunning emerald-cut diamond that caught the light from the chandelier above them. It's green, Samantha breathed. Like the dress I wore the night we met. You remember what you were wearing? I remember everything about that night. Including the part where you threatened me. Sebastian winced. About that... Sebastian, Samantha interrupted, dropping to her knees in front of him. Yes, 1,000 times yes. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Jazz burst through the restaurant doors. Did I miss it? Please tell me I didn't miss it. She stopped short when she saw them both on the floor. Oh good, you're both being dramatic. I love drama. Jazz, Samantha laughed through her tears. How did you know? Honey, that man has been planning this for weeks. He called me 17 times asking what kind of ring you'd want. 17 times. I finally told him to buy something expensive and sparkly and stop overthinking it. Sebastian stood and helped Samantha to her feet. So you approve? Jazz pretended to consider it. Well, you're rich, you're hot, you make my best friend happy, and you let me live in your guest house rent-free while I finish my nursing degree. Yeah, I approve. Guest house? Samantha looked at Sebastian in surprise. It was supposed to be a surprise. Jazz starts classes at Northwestern in the fall. Northwestern? But that's so expensive. Not when your future brother-in-law establishes a scholarship fund in your honor, Jazz said smugly. The Samantha Cruz Memorial Fund for stubborn women who refuse to give up on their dreams. It's not a memorial fund if I'm not dead, Samantha pointed out. Details. Jazz waved her hand dismissively. The point is, I'm going to be a nurse. You're going to be a billionaire's wife. and Miguel and Victoria are going to be in federal prison for the next 15 years. Everybody wins. Except Miguel and Victoria, Sebastian observed. I said everybody wins, Jazz repeated firmly. As they settled in for dinner, just the three of them in an entire restaurant, because Sebastian was still learning that normal people didn't need that level of privacy for a meal, Samantha marveled at how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she'd been a broken woman serving canapés to people she thought were better than her. Tonight, she was wearing an engagement ring worth more than her old apartment and planning a future with a man who loved her exactly as she was. So, Jazz said, raising her champagne glass, what should we toast to? Samantha looked at Sebastian, then at Jazz, then at the ring sparkling on her finger. To having the courage to say yes, she said, and to finding out that sometimes the best things come from the worst situations, Sebastian added. And to the fact that rich people problems are way more fun than poor people problems, Jazz concluded. They clinked glasses as the sun set over Chicago, and Samantha realized that some endings were really just beginnings in disguise. Even the ones that started with the question, "Do you have the courage to tell me no?" Sometimes the answer was yes, and sometimes that was exactly the right answer. The end.